A cold voice answered, "Come not between the Nazgul and his prey, or he will not slay thee in thy turn. He will bear thee away to the houses of lamentation, beyond all darkness, where thy flesh shall be devoured, and thy shriveled mind be left naked to the lidless eye." A sword rang as it was drawn. "Do what you will, but I will hinder you if I may." "Hinder me, thou fool! No living man may hinder me." Then Mary heard of all sounds in that hour the strangest. It seemed that Durnhelm laughed, and the clear voice was like the ring of steel. "But no living man am I. You look upon a woman."
Welcome to the Wayward Wizards podcast. This week we're reading Book 5, Chapter 6 of The Return of the King, The Battle of the Pelennor Fields. My name is Logan.
And my name is Zach. You were saying before we started recording that really only like a few things happen in this chapter, and it's really true. I mean, it's like you have Théoden's death is consequential. Éowyn's defeating of the Nazgul with Mary's help.
Yeah.
Aemir becomes king.
And Aragorn shows up.
Yeah, and Aragorn shows up, and then that's pretty much it.
I was thrilled to see Gimli and Legolas's names. I circled both of their names twice because I was so happy that their names popped up.
Oh, that's awesome.
It really doesn't say much about them, but I was like, oh, Gimli. I just felt like I was like seeing an old friend, you know?
Did you cry reading this? I mean, that's a stupid question. Of course you did.
Yeah, I mean, of course I did. Not as much as I did in the last chapter, though. Last chapter, I really struggled to read the last 3 pages, but I was going to say something, and I don't know if this... I think Tolkien had to stop himself from writing this entire chapter as a song.
Mm-hmm.
I think it easily could have been. You know what I mean? Like, it has that character of, like, epic poetry where there's not that many details. It's more about rhythm and, like, highlighting the big plot points through, I don't know, just through the way the language is constructed. And as I was thinking about it this morning, I was like, oh, I think it's so short because it's really trying to echo that epic poem sort of style.
Oh, I'm so glad that you brought this up because let me just read this out a little bit. This is just a selection on the very first page. "Great was the clash of their meeting, but the white fury of the Northmen burned the hotter, and more skilled was their knighthood, with long spears and bitter. Fewer were they, but they clove through the south runs like fire bolt in a forest." It's got this dun da 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 that it, like, I think if you're not hearing it like read aloud, your eyes can kind of just run those syllables together. But I've said often that Tolkien, I think, really writes for the ear. He loved the sound of words, like the aesthetic quality of words. This is somebody who reads Old English poems all day, and it's just like infused in the way that he talks.
Yeah, that line that you just read stuck out to me, and we'll get to it later. But the part where Aragorn shows up, also, I stopped and I counted the number of times the word "and" appears in like 3 or 4 sentences.
Yeah.
And it's like 9.
Yeah.
It starts with a yet, and then it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, 9 times in really just 2 sentences, or 3. They're long sentences, but I mean, they get that long because he uses the word "and" so much.
Yeah, they're just strung together.
But they really should be in stanzas, right? And it looks kind of awkward, I think, in a sentence, but I think in stanzas it would flow differently, and it would really call that to mind. And so there's a really neat blend, I think, of prose and poetry happening here. And I think it's really pleasurable to read, and it can really like open your eyes to like what prose can be.
His use of conjunctions in the entire book is interesting, but especially in this chapter. I mean, you already talked about how he'll use "and" 10 times in a single sentence. And that's not really how you're supposed to do it. But he also starts this chapter with a conjunction.
Oh, is that right?
The very first word is but. But it was no orc chieftain or brigand that led the assault upon Gondor. So it's like he's breaking all the rules, man. He's like, I'm an Oxford professor. I can break any rule that you put in front of me.
It's like he's sort of laughing at the idea that there's chapters, you know?
Huh. Because this is just like a...
It's just a continuation of the last chapter.
Yeah, 100%. In fact, like when we jump in, we should start with the last sentence of the previous chapter.
But really what it is in Tolkien's mind is like just a new stanza in a poem, I think.
Yeah, man, you really cracked it, I think. That's a really smart way of looking at it.
But I didn't notice that it started with but. That's really cool.
Oh, what do you think? Are we ready to jump in?
Yeah, let's jump in on the last sentence of the previous chapter.
Read it.
All right. I'll just note that this also starts with a conjunction.
Yeah, there you go.
And actually every phrase in the sentence starts with a conjunction.
That's so true.
And then all the host of Rohan burst into song, and they sang as they slew, for the joy of battle was on them, and the sound of their singing that was fair and terrible came even to the city.
But it was no orc chieftain or brigand that led the assault upon Gondor. Fortune had betrayed him for the moment, and the world had turned against him. Victory was slipping from his grasp, even as he stretched out his hand to seize it. But his arm was long. He was still in command, wielding great powers. King, Ringwraith, Lord of the Nazgul, he had many weapons. He left the gate and vanished. Whew, chilling.
Scary guy.
Scary, big scary guy. The riders of Rohan charge in the fields of the Pelennor with Theoden at their front. Like, nobody can keep up with them. He's going so fast. So they basically just have, like, the run of the field. It says, ahead near the walls, Elfhelm's men were among the siege engines, hewing, slaying, driving their foes into the fire pits. So they're just, like, mowing these guys down. And, of course, Elfhelm's company is where Merry and Durnhelm are.
Yeah, right.
It says, well nigh all the northern half of the Pelennor was overrun, and their camps were blazing. Orcs were flying towards the river like herds before the hunters, and the Rohirrim went hither and thither at their will. And this is the point where Theoden, he's at the front, and it says there's still lots of battle to be had between them and the walls of Minas Tirith. It's not like just like a clean sweep. There's still like a lot of fighting to be done. Theoden sees the chieftain of the Haradrim, and he charges at him. And this is the bit that I read earlier that I said I thought the rhythm of it is really interesting to me. But he like absolutely runs down this rider and destroys him. It says, but lo, suddenly in the midst of the glory of the king, his golden shield was dimmed. The new morning was blotted from the sky. Dark fell about him. Horses reared and screamed. Men cast from the saddle lay groveling on the ground. So this is the return of the Nazgul on his winged steed, and his spiritual darkness is so great that it blots out the sun again, and people just start falling off their horses and just groveling, it says. And Theoden tries to rouse them. He says, up, Eorlingus, fear no darkness, to me, to me. But it says that Snowmane, his horse, rears up in wild terror and crashes to the ground with Theoden under him.
Oh, so tragic. It
says a black dart had pierced him. The king fell beneath him. Do you want to read this description of the fell beast of the Nazgul?
I sure do. I think this is so interesting. A great shadow descended like a falling cloud. And behold, it was a winged creature, if bird then greater than all other birds, and it was naked, and neither quill nor feather did it bear, and its vast pinions were as webs of hide between horned fingers, and it stank. A creature of an older world maybe it was, whose kind, lingering in forgotten mountains, cold beneath the moon, outstayed their day, and in hideous eyrie bred this last untimely brood apt to evil. It's really a gross animal.
And it stank is such an interesting clause.
It's like a lizard more than a bird.
Keep reading. I have like a little fun fact from Tolkien's letters. Keep going.
Okay, I'm going to keep going. And the Dark Lord took it and nursed it with fell meats, until it grew beyond the measure of all other things that fly. And he gave it to his servant to be his steed. Down, down it came, and then, folding its fingered webs, it gave a croaking cry and settled upon the body of Snowmane, digging in its claws, stooping its long naked neck.
All right. So one of my favorite letters of Tolkien that you can find in his collected letters that Humphrey Carpenter edited.
Yeah.
Somebody wrote in and asked if this was a pterodactyl, and Tolkien said yes.
Oh, he just straight up was like, sure, yeah, that's what I was thinking of?
Yeah.
I love that. I love that.
So there are like paintings of this that are just the Nazgul riding on a pterodactyl.
I have seen those. I think that would be so goofy in like a movie, but I kind of love it. I don't know. There's something really charming about the idea that they're
Like dinosaurs, yeah.
a dinosaur. Yeah. Although pterodactyls are not technically dinosaurs, but that's fine.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're different. They're a different clade or whatever. Yeah.
Oh, wow. You out-nerded me.
Well, it's just something I've learned recently.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's like a creature of an older world, maybe it was, whose kind, lingering in forgotten mountains cold beneath the moon, outstayed their day.
Honestly, it kind of fits Tolkien's view of the world as like
Kind of like a mythical reframing of history.
You know, he would maybe say that like elves and hobbits are still out there. We just don't see them. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
and they're hidden, and likewise, like maybe there's some, you know, loch in Scotland or a deep valley somewhere in Asia where there are still dinosaurs, right?
yeah.
I just kind of, it's a very romantic way to think about the world.
Okay, I'm going to keep going. Upon it sat a shape, black-mantled, huge and threatening. A crown of steel he bore, but between rim and robe naught was there to see, save only a deadly gleam of eyes, the Lord of the Nazgul. And it says that he wields a great black mace.
Yes.
So it says Theoden was not utterly forsaken, because though all the other knights had fled him in terror from this winged fell beast from the sky, there's one warrior who did not leave. And who is that, Logan?
Eowyn.
Dernhelm, the young, faithful beyond fear. It says, and he wept, for he had loved his lord as a father.
I think it's important to note that, you know, Eowyn is the only one who's left, and Merry. They get tossed from their horse.
Yeah, you know, I noted that as well. They also fell.
I think the other knights of, you know, Rohan, they don't flee because they're too afraid. They flee because their horses are too afraid.
Yeah.
And those are two different things. But I mean, it does set it up nicely that Eowyn is the, you know, person there to stand against this monster.
You know, it does say that men cast from the saddle lay groveling on the ground.
Oh, I didn't realize that. I missed that.
So there is a sense that they are themselves like completely terrified. And I think that adds to Dernhelm's bravery here.
I was trying to be charitable to the other guys, but you're right. It does say that. And it does, you're right, it does highlight Eowyn's heroism here.
It says Merry crawled on all fours like a dazed beast, and such a horror was on him that he was blind and sick.
Which I guess is how the other men probably feel, right?
Yeah, I mean, you know, he's groveling on the ground too. You know, he's crawling. Is that what grovel means? To crawl?
I think so. It's, you know, it reminds me of gravel, and so I always thought that it just means like being as close to the ground as you can, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I'd always thought of it in terms of begging, but I guess it makes sense that if you are supplicating yourself on someone, you're groveling, you're crawling on the ground.
Yeah.
But it says he dare not open his eyes or look up. So he's like actively trying to like force his body to stand with Theoden, and he's unable to stand up. It says his will made no answer and his body shook. So he's actively trying to stand, but he's so weighed down with horror that he can't stand.
Out of the blackness of his mind, he thought that he heard Dernhelm speaking. But it seemed strange, and it recalled some other voice that he had known.
Yeah, it's like, huh.
Oh, Merry.
It's interesting that Tolkien maintains the like reveal that this is Eowyn until she like removes her helmet and like declares who she is.
Yeah.
And Mary is shocked by it. In the movies, I don't know why they did this. They just revealed it as Eowyn from the very beginning. Like she picks up Mary and then he goes, "My lady?" There's no reveal. Like it's not a
Yeah, I
shock that it's
wonder.
Eowyn.
I mean, I think we've sort of joked that it's kind of like silly that Mary can't tell. You know, he's like riding with a woman for
3
3
days, he has
days or
no
whatever,
idea.
and he has
Yeah.
no idea.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe that says something about Mary's familiarity with women's bodies or something. But
The opposite sex.
yeah, but but I don't know. I think in the book it works, and I think maybe in a movie it doesn't.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the reveal is really effective. I think, a good twist is great, well employed. And I'm not sure, we kind of joked about how it's so obvious that this is Eowyn. If you're reading this in 1954, like, do you know that this is Eowyn? I don't think you do.
I don't know if you do. I didn't on my first reading. I remember being not shocked, but maybe I was shocked. It's one of those things you wish you could like take out of your mind and read again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She says, "Be gone, foul Dwemer Lake, Lord of Carrion."
What is a Dwemer Lake?
Okay, so I had to look it up. Dwemer has come up several times, and it just means like phantom or ghost.
Oh yeah.
There's Dwemerberg, where the gate is the door that goes to the dead, the paths of the dead.
The dark door or whatever.
Yeah. Sauron is called Dwemercrafty. But
I
do you
remember
remember
that.
how
Yeah.
like the three hunters like see the vision of the man?
Yeah.
You have to question, okay, is this Sauron or Gandalf? And then do you remember the wolves, like the phantom wolves?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. The wargs.
Yeah, but they're like, remember they fight them like on their way to Moria, and then
Yeah.
they wake up the next morning and they're gone. Their bodies
Yeah.
aren't there. So there's a sense that like Sauron and Sauron are both able to kind of like astrally project things, and so that they're Dwemer crafty is the
Yeah.
word that's used, and of course like Sauron is called like the necromancer in the Hobbit.
Right.
So I think that this is a play on the fact that this is like a creature that like should not exist, because like Dwemer means like phantom or ghost.
Mm.
Lake just means like play or like
Oh,
action, so it's like this like action of
like a spell or something like that, kind of.
exactly.
I see.
Yeah, cool word though.
Foul Dwemer Lake, Lord of Carrion.
The threat that he gives Eowyn, he still doesn't realize that it's a woman. He still thinks it's a man. Says he will bear thee away to the houses of lamentation. Oof, beyond all darkness, where thy flesh shall be devoured, and thy shriveled mind be left naked to the lidless eye.
Terrifying.
So it's like, not only are you going to be killed, you're going to be devoured. So things are going to eat your flesh while you're still alive.
Ugh.
And then your mind is going to be like left like in torture in front of Sauron, who will just, rip you to shreds mentally as well.
Yeah, right.
And she draws her sword at that.
Wing.
Do what you will, but I will hinder it if I may. Hinder me, thou fool. No living man may hinder me.
And then we get this laughter, which is so Tolkien.
And that's happened a few times, right?
So Tolkien. There's a lot of laughing in this chapter, actually, even though it's it's war and violence and strife, but there's some kind of joy in it.
Yeah, they sing as they slew. Yeah.
This is more of like a mocking laughter, because obviously Durham knows something that the Nazgul doesn't, and that's the fact that
she
she's
is
a
no
woman.
man. Yeah, she's not a man, baby.
Yeah, no living man am I. You look upon a woman. Eowyn I am. It's so good.
Aemon's daughter, you stand between me and my lord and kin. Be gone if you be not deathless. For living or dark undead, I will smite you if you touch him. Incredible. I mean, just peak. I have this moment tattooed on my body. That's how much I love this moment.
Yeah, it's the greatest.
I think you've pointed out several times in the book where laughter is like a weapon against evil, darkness.
Totally.
Gandalf laughs after Sauron's speech. Everyone else is, under the spell of his words, but he laughs and it kind of breaks the spell for everyone else.
Yeah.
That's the one that sticks out in my mind. But this is a great example of that. The disarming quality of laughter to show that evil doesn't have power over you. Can we talk about, but no living man am I? You look upon a woman. In the movies, it's I am no man, which is much more punchy.
It's more punchy.
Because it mirrors so perfectly, no living man may hinder me. I think the mirroring of, the first 3 words of each sentence being the same.
Yeah, that's what he's doing there.
That's the type of thing that he likes. That's like a little
parallelism. Yeah, I would say I think what you've pointed out here is really interesting based, when we combine it with our earlier conversation about epic poetry, because it's like parallelism in poetry, right? I mean,
right.
I think that's kind of what's happening here. And,
I think it's worth pointing out that it's been foreshadowed, when Gandalf is talking about how much he fears the Witch King, and remember Denethor like kind of mocks him for it.
Yeah.
He's like, maybe you've met your match, old man. And Gandalf's like, yeah, maybe, I don't know. I mean, in fact, like there's, this prophecy that says that no living man can slay him.
Right.
So this is just it's a great wordplay. It's got this epic quality. It's just so good. It's just so good. It's like, oh yeah, hey, no man can kill you. Guess what? No living man am I.
I love that she names herself like it would mean something to him,
Yeah. Yeah, that's huge. It's a power in names. Absolutely.
Names herself and names her father. There's like this power in Tolkien that comes through relationship and who you are to someone else. I think that's at play here also between Theoden and Éowyn. He calls her dearer than daughter before he dies.
Dearer than daughter, yeah.
But the fact that she's like, I'm Éowyn, bitch.
Yeah. Hey,
time to die.
Hey, yeah. I want to make sure you know my name before I kill you.
Yeah, right. I love it.
There's something so badass about that. It says the winged creature screamed at her, but the ring wraith made no answer and was silent, as if in sudden doubt. So, like, just like seeing this lady like whip out her golden hair and take off her helmet. Does she take off her helmet yet, or is that later?
Well, it says the helm of secrecy had fallen from her, and her bright hair, released from its bonds, gleamed with pale gold. So yeah, he doesn't say that she takes it off, but she must, because he hasn't even opened his eyes yet until he hears that it's her.
Yeah, it says, very amazement for a moment conquered Mary's fear. He opened his eyes and the blackness was lifted from them. So yeah, he's just been listening at this point. He hasn't been able to see it. It says, there, some paces from him, sat the great beast, and all seemed dark about it. And above it loomed the Nazgul Lord like a shadow of despair. A little to the left, facing them, stood she whom he had called Durnhelm. But the helm of her secrecy had fallen from her, and her bright hair, released from its bonds, gleamed with pale gold upon her shoulders. A sword was in her hand as she raised her shield against the horror of her enemy's eyes. Oh, just beautiful. Beautifully written.
This next line is really fascinating. And I think there's a sense that this runs throughout the chapter. But Éowyn it was, and Durnhelm also.
Yeah.
This is like such a stretch, but there's like some way in which Éowyn and some of the other characters in the book are like weaving together masculine and feminine. I don't know. I don't think Tolkien would be like, I don't know what you're talking about, but it's 2026, and I just feel that there's something there, Éowyn it was, and Durnhelm also. It's like, what?
Yeah, there's interesting gender dynamics there that I think like modern conventions of gender sort of break down in the face of like mythic storytelling.
Yeah, absolutely.
I wanted to point this out. It says the helm of her secrecy had fallen from her. And we know because we were able to Google that Durnhelm means like hidden, like secret helmet.
Right. It's a nice little joke right there.
And it's interesting to say the helm of her secrecy. So it's like her helmet is secrecy.
Yeah, right.
And it's a little bit different than saying like, I think we were joking earlier about like hidden helmet. It's like her helmet is her secrecy. Like the thing that protects her is the secrecy that she has.
Yeah, that's true. You know, it's funny, before we started recording, we talked about trying to get through this chapter in an hour and 15 minutes because it's kind of a short chapter. But there's all these little, I mean, this paragraph is 4 sentences long. And we have to stop and talk about when it was in Durnholm also. Then we have to stop and talk about the slow kindled courage of Mary's race awoke. You know, there's these details about hobbits. Really, it's about us, right? But
Yeah.
slow kindled courage, like even though it's slow to take hold, once it starts
burning,
it's just as effective as anybody's courage.
Oh, this is gonna make me cry reading it.
Tolkien says, Mary clenched his hand. She should not die so fair, so desperate. At least she should not die alone. Unaided. And you're like, Mary's just ready to stand up and die with her, you know? I mean, that's what this book is about, man. For me, is
that courage.
Courage, you know, standing up with your friends and facing down, you know, these like forces of chaos and violence that seek to dominate the world, and doing it whether you have a chance. I don't know. Mary, what a guy.
And it says that the Black Captain heated him no more than a worm in the mud.
Yeah, which made me think about, you know, the hobbits are always described as baggage and stuff like that, and here he's like a worm compared to the you know, might of the Nazgul.
The fell beast roars at her, but it says that she did not blench. Maiden of the Rohirrim, child of kings, slender but as a steel blade, fair yet terrible. A swift stroke she dealt, skilled and deadly. The outstretched neck she clove asunder, and the hewn head fell like a stone.
Amazing.
And he lets fall his mace, and her shield is shivered into many pieces, and her arm breaks as she stumbled to her knees. And he bends over her like a cloud, raising his mace to kill. And that's the moment that Mary, heated not but like a worm, comes behind him and stabs him in the back of the knee.
Yeah. I want to point out here, I might have texted you about this, but
yeah, go ahead.
I would just point out that it doesn't say Mary stabbed him with the sword that he got from Tom Bombadil, you know, back after the Barrow Downs. It says Mary's sword had stabbed him from behind.
Yeah, it's really interesting passive voice there, huh?
Shearing through the black mantle and passing up beneath the hauberk and pierced the sinew behind his mighty knee. So to me, that's one of the ways that Tolkien shows us that there are greater forces at work that are kind of guiding and influencing events, you know?
Sure. The fateful crossing of paths that leads to Tom Bombadil gifting these swords that are made in the northern kingdom of Arnor back when the Witch King was the king of Angmar.
It's in Mary's hand, right? It is Mary who's stabbing the Witch King. It's not like something didn't overtake Mary, but it's, I also kind of get the sense like somebody would have been there with this sword, right? It goes back to that thing where it's like ultimate concern for Mary is that it's him and he has the courage to stand up with his friend and do something about this. But the sword is not there because of Mary. Like, the sword is there because 1,000 years ago somebody forged it to you know, fight back
battle
the darkness.
This very person, this very enemy.
Right.
And no other sword could have done it.
Yeah. And then it's equally important because like it's not even that, you know, it's the combination of Mary's action, the sword being there, and then Éowyn also being there, and he calls out to her. Mary calls out to her and says, "Éowyn, Éowyn."
Yes.
And that's when she drives her sword, but like into this thing's face.
Here, read that sentence. I think it's such a beautiful sentence.
Then tottering, struggling up with her last strength, she drove her sword between crown and mantle as the great shoulders bowed before her. The sword broke sparkling into many shards. The crown rolled away with a clang. Eowyn fell forward upon her fallen foe, but lo, the mantle and hauberk were empty. And then we get this incredible description of this thing kind of like passing away into the mist or into the wind.
Yeah, there's like a shrill cry that goes up into the wind.
Which is also what happens to Saruman later on. You know, he gets blown away, basically.
Yeah, like his spirit rising and being sort of rejected by the west with the wind.
Yeah.
This is the part that really got me. So Merry is able to come next to the fallen king. Theoden opens his eyes and he says, "Farewell, Master Hobbitla. My body is broken. I go to my fathers, and even in their mighty company, I shall not now be ashamed."
Yeah.
The line, "I go to my fathers, and in their mighty company, I shall not now be ashamed." The now holds a lot of weight for me because it's basically saying, like, if I had not fought in this battle, if I hadn't been, like, brought up from my chair by Gandalf and fought valiantly at Helm's Deep,
Yes.
my life would have ended in shame because I had allowed my son to die. But now I've redeemed myself
Yeah.
in this like sacrificial act.
Well, similar to Boromir, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I shall not now be ashamed to stand in the company of my fathers.
It's an important little word right there now.
And Merry like seeks forgiveness from the king for going against his orders. Says, "Forgive me, Lord, if I broke your command, and yet have done no more in your service than to weep at your parting." So I don't think he recognizes the significance of what he's just done in helping Eowyn.
Yeah. And, Theoden says it's forgiven, and he says, "Great heart will not be denied."
Yeah.
That's so different than some what somebody like Denethor would say. You kind of imagine, even as he's dying, Denethor would be, I don't know, scolding Pippin or whomever.
It's like, yeah, you broke my command, but it's because your heart is so great.
Yeah.
And I was never going to be able to stop you. He says, "Live now in blessedness. And when you sit in peace with your pipe, think of me."
Yeah. And, Theoden calls for Éomer. And he also doesn't know that.
Eowyn has died. Or the Eowyn has come.
And just then, Mary's trying to respond to him, but then the war kind of comes back around them, and it's the Rohirrim.
Yeah, and it's also the people of the city. It says,
yeah, that's right.
"But northward, the white crest of Éomer led the great front of the Rohirrim, which he had again gathered and marshaled. And out of the city came all the strength of men that was in it. And the silver swan of Dal Amroth was born in the van, driving the enemy from the gate." So that's Emerhill, Prince Emerhill.
So they effectively removed the siege from the gates of the city here.
Yeah.
To the point where it says all the strength of men that was in the city could come out onto the field.
Right. And so the battle's still not won, but they free the siege to come and join the battle on the Pelennor.
Yeah.
This line here I wanted to bring out. Merry, sees this like rush of men kind of coming towards them, like the war. He'd like forgotten for a moment that the war was going on and they're about to be caught up in this battle again. And he says, "Where's Gandalf? Could he not have saved the king and Aelin?" And that's such a like childlike, I don't want to say childish, but like a childlike hope, like, couldn't the powers of the world have like intervened and prevented this bad thing from happening?
Yeah.
And of course,
Right.
we know that Gandalf has been pulled from the battle to save Faramir,
Right.
Eowyn's future husband.
That's how I think of him, is as Eowyn's husband, not as whatever prince of whatever place.
It's
He's
poor. It's what's Galadriel's husband's name? I don't even know.
That's how people think of me.
Elizabeth's husband.
Elizabeth, Elizabeth and her husband. What's his face?
Oh,
Oh,
is it Celeborn?
yeah, Celeborn. That's funny. That
For the record, okay, we should note that we know who Celeborn is. Don't add us. It's necessary for Gandalf to be attending to Faramir.
Yeah, and Faramir is, he's like a spiritual hero. He's like this guy who deserves to live.
He needs to live, and
Yeah.
it's worth the risk of Gandalf being pulled from the battle. He's the general of these forces, and he passes that on to other people like the Prince of Dol Amroth, right?
Yeah, right.
Merry doesn't know that, and so for Merry, it's just an absence, and he can't understand why Gandalf would do what he's doing because he doesn't have all the information.
Well, that's what I was going to say, is that his view of this is just a slice of what's happening, which is true of all of us, right?
Yeah, I think that's Tolkien saying something about theology and philosophy, which is that we only see in part. We can like shake our fist at God and say, why would you let this happen? But we only have a sliver of, whether you agree with that or not, you only have a sliver of the information.
What does Paul say? When the complete comes, the partial will come to an end.
Yeah, I see now only through a mirror dimly.
Yeah, and so it's definitely a play here in Tolkien's view of the world.
Éomer comes to the fallen body of Theoden while Theoden is still alive. And he comes to the king's side, and Guthlaf, the banner bearer, is dead. Theoden opens his eyes and he sees the banner, and he makes a sign that Éomer should receive it. And he says, "Hail, King of the Mark. Ride now to victory. Bid Éowyn farewell." And so he died, and knew not that Éowyn lay near him. And those who stood by wept, crying, "Theoden King, Theoden King." But Éomer says, "Mourn not overmuch. Mighty was the fallen. Meet was his ending. When his mound is raised, women then shall weep. War now calls us." Yet he himself wept as he spoke.
Yeah, so these guys are not enlightened enough not to say something like "women will weep," but again, like I think there's this blending of, or gender bending or something, where immediately after he says "women will weep," he's crying.
Yeah,
and I think that Tolkien draws on really not a modern idea about, or postmodern idea about masculinity, but on a romantic and older idea of masculinity, which is that part of your heroism as a man is not that you're like a tough guy who never cries. It's that so you're moved to tears by the things that are sad. When your king dies, you cry, It's not this masculinity that is like so narrow.
there's something so beautiful though about him.
It's beautiful.
Like, commanding his new subjects not to weep as he himself is weeping.
Yeah, that's true. I'll weep for you. And we still have to be at war here, so don't like lose your shit right now.
And this is the moment that he sees Éowyn. And, talk about like, he says not to cry, but it says that he stands for a moment as one who's like pierced through the heart with an arrow. So he's stunned. He looks down and he sees Éowyn. He says, "Éowyn, Éowyn, Éowyn, how come you here? What madness or devilry is this? Death, 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 take us all." Then, without taking counsel or waiting for the approach of the men of the city, he spurred headlong back to the front of the great host and blew a horn and cried aloud for the onset. Over the field rang his voice, calling, "Death! Ride, ride to ruin and the world's ending." Do you want to read the description of the barrow blade? I think it's worth kind of tying a knot on this. This is kind of the last we're going to hear of these barrow blades. Pippin is going to have a moment of great heroism with his as well. But
So they will hear him leave Mary just like standing there crying. I think it's interesting. It says his arm is numbed, right?
yeah, he kind of doesn't register that he's injured himself.
Yeah, he's hurt himself, but the weapon is still there, and he goes to maybe pick it up, but it says the blade was smoking like a dry branch that has been thrust in a fire. And as he watched it, it writhed and withered and was consumed. So some power has gone out of it or into it. I think the same thing happens when
Lord of the Nazgul stabs him with the mortal blade.
And I love this paragraph. So passed the sword of the Barrow Downs, work of Westerness, but glad would he have been to know its fate who wrought it slowly long ago in the North Kingdom when the Dunedain were young, and chief among their foes was the dread realm of Angmar and its sorcerer king. No other blade, though mightier hands had wielded it, would have dealt that foe a wound so bitter, cleaving the undead flesh, breaking the spell that knit his unseen sinews to his will.
Wow.
What I love about this is that we know that this is not exactly a sword. It's like a dagger, right? It's a sword for a hobbit. And I don't know, the blacksmith who made these things, maybe he made 1,000 of them. Maybe he made 10,000. He plants seeds that he never saw the harvest of. But Mary sees the harvest of it, and they're connected across those years. And there's like a hopefulness in crafting this blade that, lays under a barrow for generations. It's not a mighty sword. It's just a little dagger,
Yeah, it's not Anduril. It's this little dagger.
There's just something so beautiful about, it's a little dagger. It's wielded by a little guy, but the mightiness of it is invested in it through hope, essentially.
Yeah. This like active, like, it's the desire of the person who makes it, however many hundreds of years ago.
And if he could have been there to see it, he would have been pleased. He would have would have been pleased that his work had kind of reached its intended end.
Yeah. It's sad because he doesn't see it. The craftsman doesn't see it.
It is sad.
The craftsman never gets to see the fruit of his labors, but it's like, and that kind of like doesn't put us off the hook for doing hopeful, good things, because we don't know what the fruit of our sowing will be. We don't know.
Yeah, we don't. And I think part of that, like, faithfulness, by which I mean loyalty, steadfastness, fidelity, is doing the thing for its own sake.
Yeah.
And for a future which, we won't see. And it's not just about like swords being awesome. Like, there's a lot of like, fantasy books out there where like swords are just like cool because swords are cool, and like swords are cool. Let's be real. But I also think like Tolkien isn't dwelling on swords being cool and awesome because they're cool and awesome. He's doing it because it serves a purpose in the story. It's not just about, some kind of like adolescent, fever dream about how cool it would be to be a knight or whatever. It's about this thing being an important talisman for defeating the most evil thing, one of the most evil things in the world.
It's not the sword, it's the prayers that like went behind the sword. The spells that were laid into it.
Right.
Let's jump forward here a little bit. The Prince of Dol Amroth, Prince Imrahil, comes to where Mary is. They are bearing the bodies of Theoden and Eowyn to the city, and Mary is just kind of stumbling beside the bearers as they're walking towards Gondor, and Prince Imrahil is like, what is going on here? And they're like, well, Theoden died and Aemir is now king. And, the Lady Eowyn is here also and she's dead. And Imrahil's like, y'all, are there no like leechers among you? It's like, are there no doctors among you? Like, she's not dead, she's alive.
Mm-hmm.
And he like puts the metal of his armor against her mouth and a little mist shows up and he's like, yeah, this lady is not dead. It says, I deem that she yet lives. And he says, haste now is needed. And he sends one riding back swiftly to the city to bring aid. But he bows low and bids them farewell and mounts and rides back into battle. And the battle is still going. And in fact, it's really kind of not going 100% their way. It says, now the fighting waxed furious in the fields of the Pelennor. And in the din of arms rose upon high with the crying of men, the neighing of horses. Horns were blown and trumpets were braying, and the Mumakil were bellowing as they were goaded to war. So there's just this like cacophony of men's voices and animals' voices and screaming and horns. And in the midst of this, they see ships arrive. And that's when all hope leaves them. They see that if these ships of the Corsairs of Umbar are going to join the battle is lost.
Yeah. So yeah, things aren't looking good for the good guys. We get these descriptions of all the different forces that are arrayed against the forces of Gondor and Rohan. And it says, it was even as the day thus began to turn against Gondor and their hope wavered, that a new cry went up in the city. It being then mid-morning, and a great wind blowing, and the rain flying north, and the sun shining, in that clear air watchmen on the walls saw afar a new sight of fear, and their last hope left them.
Yeah, they see these black ships being borne up on the wind, and everybody loses heart. They start crying, the Corsairs of Umbar, the Corsairs of Umbar, look, the Corsairs of Umbar are coming. It is the last stroke of doom. And so, everybody is just freaking out. And it says, for none could be found to command them in the city. So they began to run and ring the bells, tolling the alarm and crying for people to run back to the walls to retreat. That's because Gandalf is still not there to lead them. He's still dealing with Faramir and Denethor.
Yeah, no one's there to lead, and we come to those bells and trumpets again before the end of the chapter, because now, as of right now, they're a sound of panic and retreat, but they don't have all the information yet that they need.
But Éomer does not despair. It says, stern now was Éomer's mood, and his mind clear again. So he's recovered from his shock at seeing his sister and his king.
Yeah, he kind of goes into a battle fury.
Yeah. He sings a song. He says, out of doubt, out of dark to the day is rising. I came singing in the sun, sword unsheathing. To hope's end I rode, and to heart's breaking. Now for wrath, now for ruin, and a red nightfall. And it says, for once more lust of battle was on him, and he was still unscathed, and he was young, and he was king, and the lord of a fell people. And lo, even as he laughed at despair, he looked out again on the black ships, and he lifted up his sword as though to defy them. And that's the moment when they see the standard at the front of the ships is a white tree with 7 stars about it and a high crown above it, the signs of a Lindel that no lord had borne for years beyond count. Thus came Aragorn, son of Arathorn, Elisar, Isildur's heir, out of the paths of the dead, borne upon a wind from the sea to the kingdom of Gondor. And the mirth of the Rohirrim was a torrent of laughter and a flashing of swords, and the joy and wonder of the city was a music of trumpets and ringing of bells.
Yeah, so all of a sudden those bells and trumpets that are being rung, they go from being panic and retreat to going to, and even though the city doesn't know that Aragorn's there, I don't think.
Yeah.
But the bells and trumpets are ringing, and it becomes music for the forces who are out here. You know what I mean?
Oh, I love that. That's great.
It's so cool how, it's only a page later, really, that panic and retreat gets turned into joyful laughter and music. Yeah.
It says, but the hosts of Mordor were seized with bewilderment, And a great wizardry it seemed to them that their own ship should be filled with their foes. And a black dread fell on them, knowing that the tides of fate had turned against them, and their doom was at hand. The knights of Dol Amroth drive the enemy before them. South strode Éomer, and the men fled before his face, and they were caught between a hammer and an anvil.
Oh man, it's so great. I love it so much.
There came Legolas and Gimli wielding his axe, and Halbrand with the standard, and Eladon and Elrohir with stars in their brow, and the dour-handed Dunedain, rangers of the north, leading a great valor of the folk of Lebanon and Lamadon and the fiefs of the south. But before all went Aragorn with the flame of the west, Anduril like a new fire kindled, Narsil reforged as deadly as of old, and upon his brow was the star of Elendil.
So great.
I love the reunion between Éomer and Aragorn. It's so great.
Think they kiss a little?
But all but. Thus we meet again, though all the hosts of Mordor lay between us, said Aragorn. Did I not say so at the Hornburg? So you spoke, said Éomer, but hope oft deceives, and I knew not then that you were a man foresighted. Yet twice blessed is help unlooked for, and never was a meeting of friends more joyful.
Éomer says, you come none too soon, because much loss and sorrow has befallen us. And Aragorn says, then let us avenge it ere we speak of it. Don't even tell me about it yet. We're going to avenge it now. And they rode back to battle together.
It says hard fighting and long labor they still had.
I think it's important that Tolkien never just makes battle something that's like
glorified.
We're told about everybody who dies here.
Yeah, including, and it only gets one sentence, but Halbrand.
No few had fallen, renowned or nameless, captain or soldier. For it was a great battle, and the full count of it no tale has told.
Not even this one.
Yeah, not even this one. I don't know. I just think about the war that Tolkien himself went through, and
the men who he saw die. And there's this sense, Aragorn and Éomer and Imrahil ride back towards the gate of the city. And it says that they were weary now beyond joy or sorrow. And I underlined and highlighted this. So that means at one point in time I highlighted it, and then I went back and underlined it again on another reading. So I think this means it's really important. These three were unscathed, for such was their fortune and skill and might of their arms, and few indeed had dared to abide them or look on their faces in the hour of their wrath. But many others were hurt or maimed or dead upon the field. So there's something to be said here where it's like, why did Theoden die? Why did Halbrand die? These guys were also fearsome and skilled, and there's something about the randomness of loss and war that even strong people can fall, and Tolkien certainly knew that intimately. I'll end by reading the conclusion of this song that Tolkien ends the chapter with. Death in the morning, and at day's ending lords took and lowly. Long now they sleep under the grass in Gondor by the great river. Gray now as tears, gleaming silver. Red then it rolled, roaring water. Foam dyed with blood flamed at sunset, as beacons mountains burned at evening. Red fell the dew in Rama Sakor. I mean, that's somebody who's seen pools of water filled with blood.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
And so there's a sadness here, even in the glory and beauty of it. Tolkien kind of won't let us just revel in it. He wants to remind us that war always comes with a price. Well, thanks so much for reading along with us this week. Be sure and join us next week for Book 5, Chapter 7, The Pyre of Denethor. If you want to help out the podcast, the best thing that you can do for us is subscribe, rate, and review on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify. Follow us on YouTube. And if you want to reach out to us, the best way is to go to our website, waywardwizards.com, or email us at info@waywardwizards.com.
And until next week, remember, great heart will not be denied.
We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Here, let's just do our quick like draft of like top chapters in Lord of the Rings. Let's just do it real quick.
Okay, well, in no particular order. Although I guess I would put Battle of the Pelennor Fields at the top. I would also have to say the Bridge of Khazad-dûm is in there.
Just, yeah. Peak.
Shortcut to mushrooms. You gotta.
Oh, what a different book that is, you know? I mean,
oh man,
how is it the same book?
It's a completely different book. It's like so different than this.
Oh,
Shortcut
man.
to mushrooms.